Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to take you guys along over these next few days as I get started making a sourdough starter. I have had a sourdough starter in the past. My sister gave me one that she had made and I used that regularly, loved using it for about a year and a half, I think. And then it went bad this summer. So I'm finally getting around to restarting one. Right now I have so missed using my sourdough in recipes. So I'm gonna take you along day by day for this process. This is my first time starting one from scratch. Sourdough is different than any other bread where you use yeast because sourdough just gets fermented from the air without using yeast. Very beneficial, has lots of health benefits. So let's go ahead and get started on day one of my sourdough starter. You're going to want a glass container and you're gonna wanna mix it with a wooden spoon. And so I just have a cup of flour. I just use all-purpose flour. I do often add whole wheat flour to my recipes later on, but for my starter, I just use white flour. And then I also have a cup of just room temperature water here. I am just using a filtered water. So I'm gonna pour that in, give that a good stir. So that's it for today. I'm just gonna put a clean cloth on top, and then I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Give me a sec. I like to just put an elastic over to keep that in place, and then that's just gonna go sit over here until tomorrow. So that's it for day one. We are on to day two for our sourdough. So it's been 24 hours since I fed it yesterday. The first thing I have to do today is dump out half of what I have in my jar. So I dump out half of that and then I feed it once again with 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of water. Why do I have to dump out half? Because your starter is going to continue to grow and you want to be feeding about what you have in your jar. You want to feed it about that much. So as your starter grows, if you continue only feeding it 1 cup, it will be starving because it's not getting enough water and flour. Sorry for all the background noise you're hearing. And if you keep doubling it, you will just have like huge amounts. You'll be feeding it 4 cups a day as it continues to grow. So as much as I really don't like throwing out food, this is part of the process and it wastes so much more than I would be wasting if I continued to double what I have. So again, I have got my 1 cup of all-purpose flour and I have got my 1 cup of water. You do want to give this a really nice, vigorous stir. After I put my camera down, I'll be giving it a really good stir because you want to get all those lumps out of there and just make sure that you get everything incorporated. There it is. Gonna sit again for another 24 hours. We are on to day 3, and as you can maybe see, this has grown quite a bit. It's definitely starting to grow and it is starting to get a few bubbles. Look at those nice bubbles. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing I did on day 2. I'm gonna dump half of it, feed it a cup of water, a cup of flour. I've got my cloth on there now and I'm just gonna take an Expo marker and I'm just gonna draw a line right at the top there so that tomorrow in 24 hours we can see if the sourdough has grown or not. Day 4 for my sourdough. You can see that it has risen a little bit, not much, but a little bit since yesterday. You see the bubbles there. I'm gonna do the exact same thing today. I'm gonna dump half of it and then add a cup of water, a cup of flour. Day 5, I'm gonna do the same thing again, dump half and feed it. I added a little bit less water today because I noticed that my sourdough was getting a bit watery, just a bit too thin. So I did a cup of flour like normal and only about 3/4 cup of water. We have reached day 6 of this sourdough process. So for today, day 6, and for tomorrow, day 7, I'm gonna feed my sourdough every 12 hours. So over the next 48 hours, I will feed it 4 times. Same thing, dump half, add a cup of water, add a cup of flour, mix vigorously, and then let it sit. And then by the end of day 7, we should be just about ready to start using it. I've just taken off the top here. You can see how bubbly my starter is getting. It is day 7, also Sunday. We're about to just run out the door to church, but I am going to get my sourdough quickly fed. Like I said, I fed it twice yesterday, 9 in the morning, 9 at night. It's 9 in the morning again. So I'm gonna do the same 2 feeds today. So I'm gonna dump half and feed it with a cup of flour, a cup of water. It is looking quite bubbly. It is not rising as much as I was hoping it would be. A really healthy, really active starter will be doubling in size. Mine is definitely not there yet, but it is growing a little bit. I did move my sourdough yesterday as well. I had been keeping it on the kitchen counter. I forgot, in the winter, this kitchen gets pretty cold. My laundry room, on the other hand, gets pretty warm. And so now I'm keeping my sourdough in the laundry room. In the summer, I can keep it on the counter. In the winter, I like to keep it in a spot where it's warm. You want to keep it in a warm place that is a good environment for an active starter. It's a few hours later, and I just want to show you how many bubbles I'm seeing in my sourdough now. Look at all those bubbles. I wanted to come back on and just talk about this sourdough process a little bit more. So now that my 7 days are done, that process of kind of prepping my sourdough starter is done. I can start using it. So I am going to make either pancakes or English muffins tomorrow, and I will film that process and end my video off with that recipe. But what I've shown over this past week is really the process of starting my sourdough. Now, as for the discarding, like I've been discarding half every day. From this point on, I really shouldn't have to discard much anymore. And that is because when I have a discard, I will make pancakes with that discard. So how to keep your sourdough now, if you are going to be using it about every day, you can keep it on your kitchen counter like I have been for the past week. If you think that you're going to be using it about once a week, definitely you'll want to keep it in the fridge. It can stay in the fridge without being fed. After about a week, you do need to take it out, probably make a recipe and feed it before putting it back in the fridge, take it out a week later, and so on. If you're going to keep it on your counter, you do need to continue to feed it every day. And if you're not going to be using your discard, you're going to have to, dump it, feed it again, and so on. So when I am ready to make a recipe, what I will do is I will take a cup of my starter out of my jar. I put it into a glass bowl, and I will feed what's in the bowl as well as what is in my jar. Because when I make a recipe, I'm usually doubling or tripling. I want to make sure I have a good amount of starter. So I might even feed what's in my glass bowl and then feed it again 12 hours later so that I have like 4 cups of starter to get me a good triple batch of pancakes. It sounds like a lot, and I know that. I promise it is simple, and your starter is very hearty. It's not easy to kill a starter. It takes a bit of maintenance, but once you learn the process, it's really quite simple. I do follow Lisa over at Farmhouse on Boone. She has a YouTube channel, she has a blog. I have gotten so much sourdough information from her, so I will make sure to link her down below if you want to check that out. A lot of my recipes are from her website. I think that's about all that I wanted to say for today, so I will see you guys tomorrow when I make a recipe. I am now ready to use my sourdough starter in my first recipe. So I decided that I am going to put together some sourdough pancakes today. This is a recipe I've made many times before with my old starter, so I'm excited to make those pancakes today. My sourdough is definitely pretty bubbly now on day 8. Still not rising a lot. Like I would say it's not ready for me to be using for bread yet, but it's perfect for pancakes and waffles. I think I'm gonna make some English muffins with it tomorrow, but it will get there. It'll get more bubbly and it will start growing more. It will probably just take a few more days, but at this point it's great for some of those just basic discard recipes. Here is my starter. I've been building it up over the past day here. So look at all those nice bubbles. I've built it up to 4 cups of sourdough starter here. So I am making a double batch. So I'm gonna add 4 eggs. I am going to put half a cup of coconut oil into my pot because I want to melt it. I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of honey and then some salt and baking soda. And that is it. Nice and healthy and yummy. I'm just going to prep my pan here by greasing it with some coconut oil. Once my coconut oil here is all melted, then I am ready to start making my pancakes. So I use a 1/4 cup. There's the finished look of all of our sourdough pancakes. One other thing I wanted to say that I forgot to say yesterday before closing off this video is that there's no magical like, oh, every time you feed it, it has to be a cup and you have to feed it a cup of flour and so on. No matter how much you have in your jar, you just have to feed it whatever is in there. So there have been times where I really want to use a good portion of what starter I have in my jar, and I will be down to like a 1/4 cup of starter. And so that's fine. I will just feed it a 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/4 cup of water to gradually build it back up again. And like I mentioned earlier, any instructions will tell you to match the amount of starter you have with both flour and water. I've just kind of learned over time what consistency and what thickness I want my starter to be. And so I do, if I have a cup of starter, I will usually feed it a cup of flour and like between 2/3 and 3/4 cup of water so that my starter is just a little bit thicker. It works better for my pancake and waffle recipes and so on. Well, I hope that all of this that I've been filming over the past week has been informative to you guys. Again, I will link down below a place where you can get so much more sourdough info. And if you have questions, I am by no means an expert, but if you have any questions for me, we can have a conversation down in the comments and I can hopefully answer some of your questions. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you know someone else who wants to start sourdough, then you can go ahead and share this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.